I kind of just realized something on my way home. Um, I've been busy trying to think in terms of how to boost voltage initially to get the neon bulb to light up. Where is it? There it is. And that's exactly the wrong approach that was taken by Whitehouse, a fellow by the name of Whitehouse back in the 1880s, and he fried a length of undersea cable that did not span the entire Atlantic Ocean, but he fried it nonetheless because he thought, oh, let's just send more voltage into the line, and that way we'll overcome losses. Well, the current was lagging so bad that it never showed up at the other end after a week of transmission. It's so only the voltage showed up and none of the current. Um, so what I'm thinking is that, look at these. These are spheres. They're circular in shape to a greater degree than is this loop that represents the barrel-shaped coil surrounding the circuit. What if my mistake was putting plastic as the underside of these copper spheres, which is the dielectric, and then I thought to myself, remove that, so you got a copper underside. But what if the underside is iron, covered with copper? I don't know when they invented electroplating of metals, but it stands to reason that any kind of circular shape is probably going to be predicated on iron in order to preserve current at that location. Well, to preserve the magnetic field at that location and preserve the current leading up to, because, magnetic losses would be the first avenue of escape, and then current follows, I would think. But be that as it may, in order to preserve current, there probably has to be magnetizable loops of iron in various places of the circuit where they are needed. And this may be two of them that I've overlooked. For whatever reason, um, because they're spherical. You have to ask yourself, why did they use spherical capacitors? And I never came up with an answer until now. So I was going to ground the back side and connect the front side to an aerial elevated up to the rain spout, the rain gutter. Um, and I'm thinking, that's nice, but before I do that, I have to redo these capacitors. And so I thought I'd let you know this is evening. I just got back from my days of being away. And the other thing is, I have a resistor here of 10 mega ohms on one side of the capacitor, 330 nanofarads. But what if I need to put it on the other side as well? My logic may be flawed because I don't know what kind of circuit I'm dealing with. When I measure it, it's always DC voltage differences. But that does not preclude the possibility that there is a very low level oscillations of some kind or another taking place, and it averages out to look like DC, when in fact it is not. I've seen that happen under simulation, and so it's very easy to become fooled by what we look at the large scale and then assume that that's happening at more minute detail, when in fact that may not be the case. So what if I got the resistor on the wrong side anyway? What if I'm supposed to have it on the other side? And would it hurt to have it on both sides? No, I don't think so. So rather than trying to add more of these in a big, huge loop to increase resistance on possibly the wrong side, I should just put another resistor on the other side. Play it safe. So those are the three changes to make. Add another resistor would be the simplest, the first thing to do. Replace these ping pong balls with spherical approximations of a sphere, starting with an underside of iron wire and then covered with copper tape. So I'm going to have to buy more iron wire is what I'm going to have to do. And I don't have the money for that. um, And then the third thing would be to add an aerial connected to this front line and a ground connection to the back line. So those are the three things I envision I need to do. And I'll just take them in sequence. Well, I got the copper spheres detached from their positions here and there. And I'm starting to wrap them in iron. How do I do this? Ah, here we go, white background. Starting to wrap them in iron wire, floral insulated wire, using copper tape to help secure the great circles in position because it's kind of very difficult to work with this situation. This one's not finished yet, and then I'll start on the other one. But at least I got it started, so there it is. Now that I took the spherical capacitors away from the circuit, I decided to measure the difference between the back end and the front end, and it's 0 volts. And the difference between the front end and the loop, 314 millivolts. So it shows the spherical capacitors were doing something, because now the voltage that used to be between them is now increased, added to the difference between the iron loop and the front copper tape. So that's interesting. That's good to know. We really are lopsided in how we think about electrical engineering. All we think about is copper and voltage. We don't think about copper, it's subliminal, but all we think about is voltage. And then we say, oh, how come we've never seen this before? You must be full of shit. Actually, they speak for themselves because they're partly full of shit, because whenever you lack information, you have to make up the difference. Your subconscious will feel, your heart will feel there's missing information, and you'll make it up for with lies. And that makes electrical engineers partially full of shit, but they look through partially shitty glasses and they look at me and I'm out of the norm, and so they think I'm full of shit. Regardless of what they think, if we use the word conservation the way it's supposed to be intended to be meant, not conservation of energy, which is hardly the appropriate term, it's more like the accountability of energy. But yeah, we're not conserving anything. If anything, we're losing it. That's the ridiculousness of it, is that while we profess to be believers in conservation of energy, what we're really doing is we're wasting energy. And we're very good at that. So we're telling ourselves a bunch of lies to make ourselves feel good. We are losing energy because we are losing instantaneous watts, which we are losing because we are losing current by way of losing magnetic field, because we insist on using copper wire, which is great because it has low resistance, but we don't couple it with a bifilar winding of iron wire, which is what they did 100 years ago because they knew better. They were not going to waste what little voltage they were going to apply to the circuit, so they conserved against the loss. So it shows how we have forgotten what Oliver Heaviside became well known for, and angered the Royal Society of England, or whatever they're called, because he did not think the way they do and the way engineers and physicists currently think of, mostly engineers, in that copper, 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 voltage, 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 that's all you got to think about. And, ooh, voltage drop, see? Ooh, so important. No, it's not. What's important is that we don't lose the voltage due to conversion to current, due to loss of current, due to loss of magnetic field. And we lose the magnetic field when it becomes displaced. It lags behind the dielectric field so severely that we end up with a pretty bad situation. So I can see why electrical engineers say that it never becomes greater than 90 degrees displacement, because anything greater than that, and you just dissipate the current. It lags so badly, that it just goes out the window, out the wire, and is no longer part of the wire when it's driven by voltage pushing the current, only under those conditions. So I'm busy soapbox, hot air, getting steam off my chest, um, complaining, whining, that the reason why we don't see these types of free energy or any types of free energy circuits is not merely due to suppression and conspiracy and competition and moneyed interests, vested interests. It's more importantly, it's our dang ignorance and our obsession with voltage and our subliminal obsession with copper. And oh, let's lower the see. We're conserving against voltage expenditure by focusing on reducing our resistance. Well, you know what? A free energy circuit, if it doesn't have high resistance and high impedance somewhere, then it's what's it good for? How else are you going to increase the voltage? Except by increasing the resistance and impedances. So we really have our brains screwed on backwards if we're a formally trained electrical engineer. I can see why I walked away twice from beginning 101 electrical theory in community college, because right away I could see the fraud. Right away I could see that no, I didn't see, I felt. Well, I saw with my heart that there was something remiss, something amiss, something dismissed that should have been there. But I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't know anything. That was 35 years ago. How could I possibly know what I was missing? But I didn't like it, what I heard. And not even two pretty girls who wanted to be my lab partners could keep me there. They kept me there a little longer than the first time I tried, but I still left because I was so embroiled, angry. So this is the only reason why I've made so much progress in 9 years of simulation work, is because not because I've learned anything, but because I've recalled everything, or not everything. Recalled this, that, or the other thing. I'm remembering. I'm digging it up out of my soul, and because it's detailed technical information, it's not easy to dig up. You just don't remember it flash. You've got to have experience, even if it's merely virtual experience of the simulator, to remind me what my soul already knows, to be able to put into words, English words, what my soul has already recorded, probably in some other foreign language that is long since dead. So, language is the basis of analysis. It's the foundation of our intellect. We acquire an intellect when we acquire our ability to speak our mother tongue. Without a mother tongue, we don't have access to the intellect. You can forget it. So, I don't like language, but I've had to get used to it. And God willing, I'll never have to learn another language, because English is bad enough. All speech languages do injustice to thought, and I'm speaking of the thought on the other side of the brain. They do a grave injustice, but because so little is conveyed. It's merely a tool of analysis. That's all language is good for. And that's all physics is good for, with all its hypothetical lies they call laws, like the conservation of energy. Certainly a hypothesis, not a theory, and it's certainly not a law. It's a law of analysis. See, they never put down a restriction on what it's merely good for. They can't just say, oh, it's a law all the time. Yeah, because physicists do nothing but analyze. So I guess it is a law all the time. You got to think in the context of where the physicist and electrical engineer's head is dwelling on. Analysis, analysis, analysis. So yeah, they're gonna be oh boy, conserving. No, they're going to be accounting See, that's the other thing. It, we're not conserving any. Oh, I see. We're conserving voltage, right? Because we're reducing our resistance, right? So that we can drive the thing with an external prime mover instead of driving it from within itself. If we put resistance in there to not conserve against our expenditure, not the loss, but the, well, loss due to conversion of voltage being converted into, I got that right? Uh, well, heat. But yeah, due to the resistance converts the, well, no, it converts the current into voltage. Actually, the voltage goes up. So actually, oh, I see. So they are conserving against the loss of current, but using a different theology. Okay. So they are conserving against the loss of current, but instead of using iron, they're using a reduction of resistance. And that's why they focus on copper wire and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So now I can concede to understanding their point of view, but it's opposite because they could take a different tack. And instead of reducing their expenditure of voltage that way by reducing resistance by using copper wire, they could co-wind their copper wire with iron wire and let the iron be bare and only the copper be insulated. So this is what's missing from the formal education of electrical engineers. And so they design things accordingly. Plus they're trying to get the size down and the weight down. They don't want it to be humongous and heavy. But hey, once it's established, it's established. It's an investment one time only when you build it. But meanwhile, you're paying through the nose for the energy. Oh no, the customer is. We don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So, it should be like the Chinese acupuncture. You don't pay them unless the patient gets better. So you don't pay the electrical engineer for designing your equipment unless he reduces your electric bill. He makes some effort. And not just using digital electronics either. Maybe use some iron, winding along with the copper winding and along the transmission lines of copper, run some iron tape, permalloy tape around the copper core and then insulate it. Hey, might want to give it a try. You can still get permalloy tape from Russia. Well, not from Russia, made in Russia by Russians, but you can get it from eBay.